Good morning, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome to this very wet day today. 21 degrees and partly sunny. Hey, what day is it today? It's the first Tuesday in November, and what happens on first Tuesday in November, we are all very familiar with it, aren't we? Well, let's take a look at how it's shaping up right now. Yes, I'm talking about the race that stops the nation, the Melbourne Cup.
Music to Melbourne's ears as the city welcomes back the Cup Eve parade after a 2-year spell.
This is going to be wonderful.
The Newey boys!
The Newey crew is down from Newcastle, just some of the tens of thousands of tourists calling Melbourne home for Cup Week.
Ready to get on a winner.
And the tip is, don't bet on anything during the day, right? Just enjoy yourself.
And bring a jacket. The Weather Bureau is tipping a max of just 14, the coldest Cup day since Doriemus won in 1995.
If it rains, we've had it before, we'll keep our patrons safe and they'll have a great time.
They'd have to be idiots not to turn up. It's the best show in the world.
Gai Waterhouse will saddle up 2 runners in tomorrow's great race as the Queen of Australian Racing shoots for her second Melbourne Cup win.
Well, I've got one that wants dry ground and one that wants rain, so I'm almost...
So yes, everyone's preparing up and gearing up for that. If it rains, it rains. As the weather prediction is for rain, we'll see how it all shapes up. Well, the parade returns as per this second news.
Melbourne marched to the sound of the Cup Carnival. For the first time since 2019, the Cup Parade was back.
They don't have a parade anywhere else in the world for a horse race.
Thousands of people waved to famous racing names.
Oh, we've got lots and lots of owners. It's really lovely. It's fabulous. From all over Australia, all over the world.
And caught a glimpse of the prize on offer.
I'm a racehorse enthusiast, so I can't wait for tomorrow.
Though not everyone was there in support.
I get a bullet to the head.
Horse racing thrills!
It's warm and dryish today, but this time tomorrow...
Hope you all punters have got your bets in. Yes, I know people who don't normally bet, but they do an office sweepstake or something on this day. At least they make an exception for once a year, even if you're not a serious punter. Well, right now it is, we will keep you updated how things progress on there. Well, right now, Queensland is cracking up on e-scooters. As we know, there have been so many incidences that have happened. So I think it's about time that some legislation came in.
Hello, mate. Just here, thanks. Hi. Senior Constable, my name. I'm from the Highway Patrol. What's your reason for riding? What's the reason for riding without your helmet on today? Just be aware of the new legislation too that's coming into effect on the 1st of November. So you'll only be able to do 12 kilometres an hour, etc. on bike paths. 143. If you're using your phone whilst you're riding, it's $1,000 fine. Okay, so you no longer can go through red lights. You've got to treat it as though you're a vehicle. So
now, there are all these rules and regulations coming in, and that's about time because, as we know, there have been so many incidences that have been happening and such irresponsible behavior. They just whiz through it and never have their helmets on and, ride where they shouldn't be riding and no respect for lights and everything. They just fly through. The other day there was a bunch of kids coming right down on the middle of the streets. And all of them yelling on top of their voice, coming from one light to another, as they managed to get that little bit of a gap between the cars and whiz through there. Well, of course, the other news that is the boy who pleads guilty to couple driving in that fatal case.
A tragedy of the worst kind. 2 young lives cut short, one of the victims just shy of her 15th birthday, leaving family and friends to grieve the lost possibilities. The car was found by a passerby around 8 in the morning, smashed into a tree with the teenagers inside and no sign of the driver. Police were initially unable to work out when the accident had happened or what caused it. The car so badly damaged it was unrecognisable. It's alleged the 16-year-old driver smashed through a temporary fence before hitting a tree and running away. The 16-year-old was soon arrested, and today he pleaded guilty to 2 counts of culpable driving causing the deaths of the girls, who are 14 and 15. Appearing in court by video link, the boy also pleaded guilty to a charge of being an unaccompanied learner driver. His lawyers told the court they are waiting on an autopsy report before a decision about a 4th charge. The boy has
so there you are. What irresponsible behaviour once again. Under those conditions, he should not be driving because he needs to be accompanied by an adult. Well, right now let's go to Perth, where Perth get us to remember Cassius Turvey. This is another very sad case.
Kason, how are people feeling?
There's been a groundswell of support, not just for a grieving mother or family, but an entire community that's wrapped in grief. More than 1,000 people have turned up here in Cassius Turvey's local community, and there are also vigils being held across the state and across the country. It's been 8 days since the 15-year-old Noongar Yamatji boy died after allegedly being beaten with a metal pole while walking with friends after school. Tonight here at Midland Oval, there's been an outpouring of support on Halloween, which Cassius's friends have said was his favourite holiday. Michelle Turvey, Cassius's mother, spoke earlier about her son.
My son was an amazing young boy. We have lots of amazing young people in our community, black, white and brown. I want to tell those children not to be fearful. You can still walk the streets.
And Kason, what are organisers hoping these vigils will bring?
The hope is that it will bring about positive change. Some in the community have questioned whether race did play a part in the incident. WA Police have said that motivation is still being investigated, and with it before the courts they can't say too much. But what we can tell you is that along with an overwhelming sense of loss in the community here in Perth, there is also an overwhelming and growing sense of fear that what happened to Cassius Turvey might happen again.
And as mentioned that, it is good to see that there is so much support and so many vigils being held as well. And our thoughts are there with the family. Well, right now, let's go to Northern Territory, where the police officer stands by the decision that he made.
We've been asking the police to come out and just give us an update. We just want to know if he's alive.
Kumanjai Walker's family beg for information.
Absolutely nothing.
The 19-year-old dying inside as police choose to keep his family out. The coroner today heard officers feared cultural payback as rocks rained down on the police compound. They used nurses and an ambulance to trick the community into thinking Mr. Walker was getting help. A calculated deception by police in fear of a riot in a community which ultimately never breached the doors of the station. The involvement of Derek Williams and the other elders at the front of the police station and the deliberate and calculated deception, the so-called ruse, were the two factors that, in my mind, did not result in a catastrophic outcome. After his earlier evidence sparked a conflict of interest at the bar table, Superintendent Jody Nobbs was recalled today, acknowledging the lies to Kumanjai Walker's family that night have eroded trust in police. But as much as it didn't sit right with him, he cited previous unrest as the reason it was necessary.
Superintendent Nobbs, who approved the original plan to arrest Kumanjai Walker at 5 a.m. the morning after he was ultimately shot, was also asked about why there was such urgency to find the 19-year-old on the weekend of a significant community funeral. He told the coroner one of his primary concerns was the safety of Mr. Walker's partner after a history of domestic violence.
The 5 a.m. arrest plan not followed by the visiting cops, the coroner hearing confusion around a brief or lack thereof, led to officers filing out just after 7 p.m. Constable Zachary Rolfe, who fired the fatal shots around 30 minutes later, has been found not guilty of all charges. Melissa McKay, ABC News.
So not guilty of all charges in discharge of duty. Well, right now let's go to Victoria, where Victoria finds 15 million for Netball Australia before election.
Donning the green and gold, the Premier was waiting on the wing to rescue Australia's netballers. Bringing $15 million in treats to replace the cash controversially pulled by Hancock Prospecting.
Obviously there was a sponsor, that sponsor was no more, so there was a gap and Visit Victoria raced to fill it.
The Premier adamant Victorian taxpayers can afford the new sponsorship deal with Netball Australia. Despite news today, the budget has plunged further into the red.
Yes, we absolutely can afford to do everything, and we have to make sure that we do everything we possibly can to have as many people in work, as many tourism businesses thriving.
The mid-year budget update reveals the state's deficit has blown out by $1.8 billion from May, the Treasurer blaming flood recovery. While debt forecasts have improved, borrowings are still expected to grow to more than $160 billion in the next 5 years.
You sometimes go into debt to grow your business. In fact, most businesses do exactly that.
The greatest level of financial vandalism, the highest debt of any state in Australian political history.
While Matthew Guy was hamming up his pledge for free school lunches,
There you go, young man.
the budget update places pressure on the opposition to detail exactly what they will cut to rein in spending.
DAS7 tax cut plan is under $1 billion. It's fairly modest.
One of the big challenges for the next government is the massive wages bill. $33 billion is expected to be spent on employee expenses alone in the next financial year, and the Treasurer admits that could rise even further.
Tomorrow, the election writs will be issued and the countdown will officially begin, with 26 days to go until the final buzzer. Bridget Rollison, ABC News, Melbourne.
So there you go. All the best to all the parties, and hopefully we'll see some good coming out of that. But right now, we're now living in Australia. There are a few things we got to put up with. One is those deadly stingers, and the season has just begun.
Well, this is the official.
Oh. We seem to have lost the audio on this.
Best thing to do is cover up as much as possible. So rashy, boardies, more skin you cover up, less chance you've got to get stung, and it's also really good sun protection.
So there you go. Apologies for that bit of missing sound there. Well, right now let's go to Brazil and the elections there.
The results are really tight and really reflect the divide and the high levels of polarization that we have been observing in Brazilian society over the past few months. So this is not an expected result. I mean, the controversies involving the management of the pandemic and some controversial stances on a number of social issues increased backlash against President Jair Bolsonaro. However, this is a really tight margin that we challenge President Lula over the next few years.
So rather than re-electing Jair Bolsonaro, who's this polarising, aggressive right-wing figure, they've gone back to the future, if you like, with Lula da Silva, a man who promised huge change during his time in office but was ultimately jailed for corruption. Then those convictions were annulled. Is this a step in the right direction?
So, President Jair Bolsonaro has also been dealing with a few corruption scandals. But what is important to mention is that the key topic in these elections was not really corruption, but the socioeconomic crisis, or the bad situation that the country has been experiencing over the past few years. That was the most salient issue, and corruption, let's say, decreased. Its importance decreased in the public debate in light of this focus on inflation and the high cost of living.
I'd like to go through the issues one by one a little later, but first, the big question that everyone is asking right now is, will Jair Bolsonaro accept this result? He lost by less than 2% of the vote. What's been the reaction from his camp so far?
The President Jair Bolsonaro himself is quiet, but a few of his key allies of his inner circle have already accepted the result and have declared that the president will accept the result, and that they will be the opposition of the new government from next year. So it's still uncertain how the president himself will react, but we have indications that he will accept the results. He may challenge the result, or he may actually cast doubt on the electoral process. But any attempt to overturn the result or to challenge the result, these will not be successful.
Mm-hmm. Let's look at some of the issues that Lula will be facing.
The acceptance of the verdict is, well, people have spoken, so the votes have been done and counted. So we have seen that in many places, in many countries where there is non-acceptance of the process, that there is problems. So we'll keep an eye on that. Well, right now, before we go to our daily India report, I'm sure that in that we will have a bit of coverage of the bridge that collapsed in India when things that we know so far, that it had just finished being renovated. It was the holiday season, there were lots of it, and I think the key cause there, they said, was overloading. So here's some of the facts that we know so far.
Avani, what can you tell us about the search efforts? Have authorities found any more survivors?
Well, the death toll now stands at more than 140 people, and just behind me is where this bridge has collapsed, and it's just quite tragic to see. There are several rescue teams across the city at the moment. You can hear the sirens, there are police cars everywhere. Rescue military helicopters have flown in from Delhi, and we can see boats which are actually on the water trying to continue to recover people from this area. Now, just to give you a bit of basic information, this bridge collapsed about 6:40 p.m. local time last night, but because the rescue effort has been happening overnight, it's taken a long time just to know the full extent of this disaster. And what's really sad about this situation is that mainly it's been holiday makers who've passed away in this tragedy. This suspension bridge behind me, it's a popular tourist spot in Morbi here in Gujarat, and this is quite a beautiful time in India. It's the Diwali Hindu festival. School holidays are happening. Plenty of Indian families are travelling across the country and seeing sights. And that's what people were doing here last night when this bridge collapsed. Now, there's some quite confronting CCTV footage that's emerged in the last few hours where you can see people actually shaking the suspension bridge before it collapses. And what we've heard from authorities just in the last hour is they're now questioning 8 people over this incident. Many of those people are security personnel, as well as people who are on the bridge and have managed to be rescued.
Avani, it was a time of celebration that's been overshadowed by tragedy. Tell us about the mood there in the city.
Well, so there you are, ladies and gentlemen, right up to date with that coverage. And of course, we know that it was overcrowded. People were swaying and playing as people do. But we'll wait till the full report comes out to find out what actually really happened. Ladies and gentlemen, right now it's time to go to our daily India report.
Welcome to the Daily India Report that brings you reports, interviews, features and more on India and the Indian diaspora. The foundation stone for the Tata Airbus C295 transport aircraft manufacturing plant was laid in Gujarat, a big boost to India's policy now to make in India, make for the globe.
Indian Prime Minister Narendra Modi on October 30th said the aircraft manufacturing facility at Vadodara in Gujarat state was India's giant leap towards becoming self-reliant in the aviation sector. He said India was fast becoming a big manufacturing hub of the world, which was a boost for the vision of Make in India, Make for the Globe. He said India is making its own fighter plane, tank, submarine and medicines, vaccines, electronic gadgets, mobile phones and its cars are popular all over the world. Now India will become a manufacturer of transport planes and soon also make passenger planes tagged Make in India. The Prime Minister laid the foundation stone for the big ticket Tata Airbus C295 transport aircraft manufacturing plant in Vadodara. He said transport aircraft will give more power to the country's defence forces, even as India will create its identity as a global aviation hub. Over 100 MSME suppliers will be associated with this project, which will help in realizing the vision of Make in India, Make for the Globe. The Prime Minister said, the UDAN scheme has also given our aviation sector a big boost. In the coming years, India will require over 2,000 aircraft. Today, we have taken a step towards meeting this global demand. New India focuses on a competitive environment while ensuring quality in the production sector. He also said the Union government had emphasized ease of doing business in the last 8 years, which had turned India into a manufacturing hub. Previous governments did not trust Indian talent, but today India was progressing in both service as well as manufacturing sectors. The manufacturing facility in Vadodara will produce C295 medium transport aircraft for the Indian Air Force. The aircraft will be manufactured by a consortium of European Aerospace, Major Airbus and the Tata Group. It is the first project of its kind in which a military aircraft will be manufactured in India by a private company. The manufacturing unit will also cater for the export of the premier transport aircraft as well as for additional orders by the IAF.
US Secretary of State and India's External Affairs Minister talked on the phone to discuss counter-terrorism, cooperation and Russia's continuing aggression against Ukraine.
US Secretary of State Antony Blinken on October 29 spoke with Indian External Affairs Minister Dr. S. Jaishankar about Russia's war on Ukraine, among other issues. Blinken spoke with Indian External Affairs Minister Jaishankar about regional and global issues, including counter-terrorism, cooperation and Russia's continuing aggression against Ukraine, the US State Department said in a release. India has been a large purchaser of Russia's oil, which the US believes is helping to fund the Russian war against Ukraine. India's imports of Russian oil rocketed from a very low base at the start of the year, reaching a peak in June and July and largely maintaining these levels through to September. The Indian government has defended its oil purchases from Russia, saying it has to source oil from where it is cheapest. The US government has been critical of the purchase of Russian oil but has little influence over decisions by the Asian government as to where they buy their oil. Jaishankar will visit Russia on November 8, the Russian embassy in India said on October 27th.
In a first, Indian Railways has started delivering consignments across borders now. The first consignment of goods is to Bhutan, where the Railways delivered 75 utility vehicles through a multimodal route.
Indian Railways delivered its first consignment of goods to Bhutan through a multimodal route on October 29th. A goods train transported 75 utility vehicles bought by Bhutan from Chennai in Tamil Nadu to Hasimara railway station in West Bengal. The freight train reached the railway station in northern West Bengal's Alipurduar district late at night on October 28th, and the vehicles were taken by road to the adjoining Himalayan kingdom on October 29th. Dilip Kumar Singh, Alipurduar Divisional Railway Manager of the Northeast Frontier Railways, said this was a first of its kind initiative and more goods would be delivered in the future based on demand from Bhutan. He said we are developing infrastructure at Hasimara railway station, which is strategically located for doing business with Bhutan. We are building a siding and have plans to construct a go-down in collaboration with the Central Warehousing Corporation. We want to handle all types of commodities and this was just the beginning.
Good news for Indian fintech, logistics and banking sector workers as Hong Kong releases a new visa scheme.
Indian financial sector workers, including fintech, logistics and banking sectors, looking to work in Hong Kong could benefit from Hong Kong's new visa scheme, which is aimed at reducing the brain drain that has risked the city's status as an international financial center. With the city's workforce shrinking by about 140,000 people over the last 2 years, Chief Executive John Lee announced the Top Talent Pass scheme in October, which includes incentives for high earners and top university graduates. The scheme grants a 2-year visa to individuals who earn no less than HK $2.5 million annually and graduates of the world's top 100 universities with at least 3 years of working experience over the last 5 years. According to a July 2022 update on the website of the Consulate General of India in Hong Kong, there are more than 42,000 Indians in Hong Kong and nearly 33,000 of them hold Indian passports. Increasingly, a large number of Indian professionals are coming to Hong Kong working in the service industry, banking and finance, information technology, shipping, among others, it said. As per the government data, Hong Kong approved 1,034 visa applications from Indians under its general employment policy in 2021 and 560 applications in the first 6 months of 2022. As far as the Indian talent pool in Hong Kong is concerned, the city has largely been able to retain it, as a result of which it remains a popular destination for prospective Indian workers who wish to move. Hong Kong has been home to a large Indian community for more than 150 years, and its contribution to the city's emergence as a hub of global finance and trade is well known.
Azerbaijan to commence its direct flights between Baku and Mumbai from November 2022.
Azerbaijan Airlines, the national carrier of Azerbaijan, intends to commence its direct flights between Baku and Mumbai in November. The airline will operate twice-a-week flights between Mumbai and Baku. The ticket sales for flights have already started. The airline has already been operating flights from Delhi to Baku twice a week since August and is now set to start direct flights from Mumbai too. Mumbai travellers can now reach Baku in just 4 hours to witness the picturesque beauty of Azerbaijan. Azerbaijan is known as the land of fire, and the capital city of Baku is a city of winds, being one of the best stops on a trip to Europe. With a beautiful 20-kilometer long coastline, this unique city offers varied destinations ranging from beaches and volcanoes to a cityscape where the ancient meets the new. Flight tickets for these flights can be booked on the official website of the airline as well as at the air carriers and accredited agencies. The ticket price includes a free baggage allowance as well as a full range of cold and hot meals. Passengers who meet the indicated conditions of carriage and who are allowed to fly under the current epidemiological restrictions will be accepted for transportation on these flights.
India suffered its first defeat at the hands of a strong South African team on October 30th in the ICC T20 Men's World Cup.
In ICC T20 Men's World Cup, India suffered a 5-wicket defeat to South Africa in their Super 12 match at Optus Stadium in Perth, Australia. Batting first, India were off to a disastrous start, batting first, losing its top order cheaply, but somehow managed to reach a paltry score of 133 runs for 9 in the stipulated 20 overs with the help of Surya Kumar Yadav 68 off 40 balls. Proteus bowlers were led by a spirited performance by Lungin Gidi, who scalped 4 wickets while Wayne Parnell picked up 3 wickets. In reply, Indian bowlers came out swinging with Arshdeep, Bhuvneshwar and Shami, causing major problems for the South African batsmen. But a steady inning by Aiden Markram and David Miller ensured that South Africa overhauled the target for the loss of 5 wickets in 19.4 overs. David Miller scored an unbeaten 59 runs while Aiden Markram scored 52 runs. For India, Arshdeep Singh took 2 wickets. During the match, star Indian batter Virat Kohli completed 1,000 runs at ICC T20 World Cup events, becoming only the second player to do so after Mahela Jayawardena. Former Sri Lanka skipper Mahela Jayawardena holds the record with 1,016 runs. With this win, South Africa is at top of the table with 5 points and 2 wins in 3 matches. India is in the second position with 4 points and 2 wins in 3 games.
A new song titled Are You Uncle from the upcoming film Unchai was released. The film features super-duper Bollywood star Amitabh Bachchan, Anupam Kher and Boman Irani among others.
का छोकरा 16 का हो चला बॉडी शॉडी डोले शोले रे.
The trio of Amitabh Bachchan, Anupam Kher and Boman Irani are back with an inspiring new song, Are O Uncle, from their upcoming film Unchai. The song shows the three of them coming out of their comfort zones to physically prepare for their mission to climb Mount Everest. Amitabh Bachchan is the one leading the pack as he tries his best to encourage Boman Irani and Anupam Kher to sweat it out in the gym with him. They are seen jogging, working out in the gym, doing Zumba and trekking on snow-covered mountains. Sung by Divya Kumar and Devinder Pal Singh, the song is written by Irshad Kamil and has music by Amit Trivedi. Sharing the song on Twitter, Anupam wrote, हर उम्र के बंदों के लिए सुनिए और देखिए हमारी फिल्म ऊंचाई का ये धमाकेदार गाना. Owning the phrase today in swag and style, #AreOUncle. Directed by Suraj Barjatia of Viva fame, the film is a story of three friends who go on to climb Mount Everest in their old age. The film stars Danny Denzongappa as their fourth friend, who expresses his desire to climb Mount Everest with them but dies before they can reach a decision. The remaining three friends decide to carry on his wish and immerse his ashes on Mount Everest. Pariniti is seen as a trainer in the movie as she trains them for their task, and eventually they make it possible with Neena and Sarika too in the company. Talking about letting go of his trappings, Suraj Barjatia said at the film's trailer launch, "In this film, I have moved away from all my earlier trappings. There once was a charm that if you name Prem, the film will work. But I have to let go of that. In the pandemic, everything was slipping away, so there was no point holding on to anything." The film marks the directorial comeback of Suraj Barjatia after his 2015 film Prem Ratan Dhan Payo, starring Salman Khan, Sonam Kapoor, Swara Bhaskar and Neel Nitin Mukesh. The film will be released in theatres on November 11th.
मार ही डालोगे।
That's all for this bulletin of the Daily India Report.
Thank you very much, Ankita, for that report. Well, ladies and gentlemen, it's been wonderful having your company. Right now, before we finish off for this segment, let's take a look at functions and events taking place right here in Brisbane. Well, ladies and gentlemen, that's about all we have time for you in this segment. On the first day of November, it's 22 degrees out, and it's still slight rain here in Brisbane, and hoping that our weather gets fine for the Melbourne Cup later today in Melbourne. Well, of course, this is the race that stops the nation, and as we know, Melbourne, of course, completely comes to a standstill, but many major cities, after lunch, many people would be, going away for their lunches, and after a few bubbles and nibblies, might not turn back to the office. But anyway, wishing you all the very best for the match. If you're punting, wishing you all the best on that as well. Well, ladies and gentlemen, until tomorrow, it's goodbye from us.